One, and we're live. Welcome to Lion, ladies and gentlemen. Like it or not, this is our first UFO podcast episode brought to you by ACG, where we're just a couple gamers YouTube channel. I've got my best friend of I'm not even sure how many years, Philly. Say hello to the people at home.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Philly.
And you are reporting live from an undisclosed location?
Undisclosed.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that we're paranoid UFO people, but we kind of are. I mean, I'm definitely not telling Uncle Sam where I live, not if I don't have to, and definitely not where we are live from at this particular moment. But I can tell you that we've got so much stuff to talk about. It's honestly almost overwhelming, the amount of stuff that we have to talk about. And if you could just turn your camera on, just so the people at home can see who we're talking to.
I have a lot of stuff to talk about. I have so much stuff in my head. I don't know. I just gotta get it all out.
Can you turn your camera on?
Yeah, let's see. Where we at?
All right, so this is my co-host Philly. Dude, I'm really excited, dude. I feel like this has been years and years in the making. I mean, we've talked about these particular topics for how many years now?
Years and years. So many years. And we've been, every time we get together, I feel like we talk about some kind of alien shit.
Yep, and it's only right that now we're putting it on wax, and it's official. This is just the first episode, so I just want the viewers to kind of bear with me as far as our background music, our intro music, our intro in general, because things will get better over time. But that's not really important at the moment. The topic for tonight, what's the topic for tonight going to be? We're going to take these people all the way back.
Yeah, I say we go all the way back to Roswell, all the way back to the beginning.
That sounds good to me, man. Let me take this link real quick and share it on Facebook.
Okay.
That way we can try and get some viewers in here. And we do have an open call line, so I will be taking calls for anybody who's interested in that. I would really like to get a take. We already got 2 people in the stream. What's up, everybody?
How's everybody doing?
All right, so we're gonna take this. We're gonna go ahead and share it on Facebook. I would really like to get some people at home's opinions on the matter, especially at the beginning, because some people have lived their whole lives in their own little sheep bubble where they just do what they're told. And, I can't live my life like that. But what I can do is try and spread word as much as possible. I mean, I drive my girlfriend crazy with this stuff. And, rightfully so. I talk about it so much. And it's not really a particular matter that she's interested in. So I could understand if, like, she's trying to tell me about Jersey Housewives every day. I indulge her. I don't get into reality shows like that. But I do like to listen to what she has to say. But I could only imagine if she's telling me every single day about a different episode, it would probably drive me nuts. So I can understand. But at the same time, sometimes you have to throw it in people's face a little bit, especially now when it's all you see on the news, it's all you see on YouTube are the UFO topics. So at some point or another, they have to come out from underneath the rock that they live under. And you got to kind of update these people to kind of snap them into reality. Because what used to be a joke 10, 20 years ago is no longer a joking matter, my friend.
It's not a joking matter. It's not a joking matter at all. I do have a counter to that. A lot of people are just not ready. A lot of people are just not ready for the information that's coming out. Because the information that's coming out it's crazy.
Right.
It's really crazy. It's really a moment that I think is tied to like the Matrix, the red pill, blue pill situation. I think this is one of those moments, and I really can't be too mad at somebody for not taking for not taking a pill, because it's a big pill to swallow. Does that make sense?
That's a huge pill to swallow, my friend. And you know, if I was, again, you have to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. If it's almost like, and I hate to bring religion into it, but it's almost like you're not a religious person, and they're constantly telling you how you should live your life with religion. You know, for some people, it really is that deep. For some people, they can't wrap their minds around there being anything else other than God above them in the skies. You know, so to kind of take it all the way back to the beginning, to understand the future and the present, you have to have a basic understanding of the past. Am I right?
Right.
So again, let's take these guys all the way back to the beginning, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. So do you want to go on your end first?
You start first.
Okay. So guys, for those of you who don't know, the whole UFO thing supposedly started in Roswell, New Mexico. So that's where this ride begins, is Roswell, New Mexico. And I got a short but very sweet video to kind of catch you guys up to speed on the Roswell incident. Here we go.
If there was any case that is considered to be the linchpin case of American ufology, it's Roswell.
Roswell is probably the most famous UFO incident of all time.
It was an incident that occurred in 1947, just outside of Roswell, New Mexico, where a rancher was out in his property and he stumbles across this crashed wreckage on the ground. He describes seeing metallic parts, he describes seeing burn marks, and he describes sort of this moment where something clearly slammed into the ground in this desert.
And the farmer who owned that ranch called the military, and they came to pick it up.
A local reporter caught wind of the story, contacted the Air Force, and asked if anything had crashed in the desert near Roswell. Well, the U.S. Air Force turns around and gives the reporter a statement saying they had recovered a flying saucer or a crashed flying disc.
And everyone was kind of like, that's weird.
The United States government just admitted they picked up a crashed flying saucer. A day later, that officer recanted.
The disc was a part of a weather balloon. No big deal.
Along with the military occupying the town, shutting everything down over a weather balloon, and then you have people coming forward saying they actually did see these bodies. It gives a lot of evidence that something there did happen.
So can I pause this for a second just to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think it was the 93rd Bomb Squad. I'm not positive on that. Don't hold me to that. But I can tell you that the military base that was in the vicinity of the Roswell incident is the same bomb squad that had everything to do with the making and the detonation of the atomic bomb. Right? You're talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You're talking about some of the most advanced military bomb squad soldiers that in that time, right? In that time frame, in that particular time frame, these guys were experts. And there's not enough money in the world to convince me that these experts didn't know the difference between a crashed UFO and a weather balloon. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
In the story,
I can't. You can't make me believe that.
That there's a little something fishy going on. That maybe there was a cover-up of some kind.
After Roswell, there was a large influx of people coming forward, seeing all kinds of odd things. The government normally said it was just swamp gas, or people were seeing Venus when it was close to the Earth, and they were just dismissing all of these accounts.
Within UFO circles, what was laid was the foundation of conspiracy. What was laid was the foundation of the mythology that would become the Roswell case, where the United States government not only has a crashed flying saucer, but also allegedly dead alien bodies, alien technology, and on we go down the rabbit hole.
The UFO talk really picked up in the 1970s when people started to believe that the government was concealing something in Area 51, specifically a UFO that had crashed along with some alien bodies.
I think the public has become more apt to accepting the possibility that there are extraterrestrials. People are getting more and more interested in what is actually out there. And they want the truth. They don't want to be told that it's swamp gas or it's just an illusion of, a close orbiting of Venus. They want to know what's going on.
All right, so that's just a summary, guys, of Roswell. Most people who are ufologists, people who have been following the UFO lore for the last 10 to 20 years, you're very familiar with Roswell. But for those of you who aren't, again, I think it was 1942, right, Philly? Philly?
No problem.
You good. You're good.
No, I'm not 100% sure what year it was. I think it was, let's look that up real quick.
Let's see. See if I can see it.
Can you follow?
1947.
Roswell is probably the most famous UFO incident of all time.
It was an incident that occurred
1947. I got it.
1947.
Yep, 1947. So again, there's nobody in the world that can convince me that the people with the most expertise on bombs and spacecraft and things of that nature didn't know the difference between a weather balloon. And again, as this guy said, they originally said they had a crashed saucer. That was the initial report, and then they changed the report again and again over the years. So, go ahead, buddy.
After World War II, so they know what they're looking at.
Right. Exactly.
Compare. They've seen weather balloons. They've seen everything that we have. This is fresh off of World War II, so they knew what they were looking at.
Absolutely, dude. 100%. Michaela Poff says, they didn't know the difference. Look who our president is. I mean, yeah, you can't rely on the government for sure to keep you aware of these things, especially when there's a huge budget going towards disinformation to make people believe the opposite for the last, I don't know how many years. Gorilla, go ahead, bud.
Oh, shit. What, after it crashed and they recovered the bodies, supposedly, they took it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Right. And so supposedly they had to use 2 trucks because they were afraid that if they were to transport all of the wreckage on one truck and they lost it or something happened, maybe they crashed, they would lose all of the spaceship. So that was common story about it. Common folklore was that they had to use 2 trucks to transport it because they were so afraid that they would lose it on the way to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
So I was watching DJ Ghost the other day, and he was reacting to the alien video in Las Vegas or whatever, because he lives in Las Vegas. He was saying that there's a lot of stories about 2 kids that were on bikes, and they shut down the highways, I guess, while they were transporting. So they needed 2 trucks, and he's saying that they shut down the highway because the wreckage was so big. So nobody was going back and forth, but they had to stop to get gas, and they stopped at this gas station, and nobody was there but these 2 little boys who were on bikes. And it said that the little boy said that they asked what they had, and they said they had a crashed flying saucer.
What?
Yeah,
How have I never
that
heard
story.
this before? No, how have I never heard that?
I've never heard that story before, but you know, somebody lives out in Vegas, you know, that's, seems like they would know, that's something they would hear.
Hey, that's the first place I'm investigating, bro. Like, if I've always wanted to kind of take a tour through Roswell and stuff like that. I would love to go to some old stores that have been there since before Roswell and kind of talk to some of the older people, maybe go to an old diner or something and just be like, look, I'm not from these parts. What do you know? And I'm sure we get all kinds of feedback from these people.
All kinds of feedback.
So supposedly they transport the wreckage, and I remember one of the people who said, I think he said his grandfather or great grandfather was a guard at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and they saw all the trucks come in, and supposedly they called a coroner in the middle of the night. He was I think he was a coroner, or maybe he worked for a funeral home, and he said that he needed little 4-foot coffins made immediately, and they were to bring the coffins immediately to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And this guy, who was on duty at the time, this guy's grandfather or great grandfather, he said that he was walking by where all the troops came in with the wreckage, and he was walking by, and he just so happened to look over, and he saw what he thought were dead children. And this was before it was common knowledge about the crash. So he thought maybe there was some type of crash, and a bunch of dead children were recovered. And come to find out, I mean, what else could it be? Why would you need a bunch, maybe 2 or 3 4-foot coffins if these extraterrestrials that you recovered were not 4 feet tall, right?
Right. Well, the counter to that is a story that I also heard, is that Russia entered our airspace and basically used some kind of test subjects they were working on and faked the UFO crash. I heard that, but it doesn't make much sense to me.
That doesn't make much sense at all, to be honest with you. But what I do know for certain is this guy seemed. He said that he personally said that his grandfather had already been in the military for a bunch of years, which is why he had clearance to be at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and he doesn't think that his grandfather would lie about this type of thing. Also, I want to say that the guy who was made to bring these 4-foot coffins to the Air Force Base, he also said that he had heard the story from his grandfather, and he also, which I mean, everybody's gonna say, yeah, my grandfather's not full of shit, but I mean, come on, dude, like, why would you make this up? That's all I'm saying. I mean, they could be making this up, but at the same time, if I'm passing a story down to my grandkids about something that I take seriously, I'm not gonna BS them,
Right.
Guys, thanks so much for joining the live stream. If you guys could just leave something in the live chat, y'all my chat people. So shout out to all y'all. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, because I promise you guys, this is just the beginning. So my boy Philly, if you could just activate your camera in between putting up the videos and stuff, just so the people at home can see you. Philly's got a video that he wants to show you guys that shows a little bit more about the Roswell incident. So in your video, can you kind of give us like a brief description of what they're about to see?
Well, before we get into that, I wanted to talk about the one of the people who actually saw some of the wreckage.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he was there. He had a piece of the wreckage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So he had a piece of the wreckage, and he said that when he it was like almost like aluminum foil. But when he crumpled it up, it returned back to its normal shape.
Yeah, so supposedly it was like real light, right? Too, it was like super light, like paper.
Material. It was really shiny. You know, that sounds nothing like the weather balloon, especially when you talk about crumpling it up and then it returning back to its normal shape.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Didn't they say they tried to burn it and they couldn't burn it too? Am I right about that?
I'm not familiar with that story.
So you're talking about the guy who went out there, who was originally on the scene, right, of the crash, and when he got there, he started picking up the pieces because he said, I believe he wanted to show his family members, his son and his wife, because he knew immediately this was something that was not from Earth. This is something that he might never get another opportunity. He knew most likely that somebody was gonna come and clean this up, and he wanted to be able to show proof to his family, right? This is the guy you're talking about?
Yeah.
And then I think it was called like the Roswell Times. I think is what the newspaper was called. Initially, say what?
After went back and said that it was a weather balloon, they got the same guy and went back and gave him pieces of the weather balloon, had him lay it out on the floor. You remember that picture? They had him
Yes.
lay on the floor. You wouldn't find that picture. They had him laid out on the floor and then take a picture with the material. Let's see. Oh, this is it right here.
Yeah, and that was after they changed the story. They basically used that guy as the poster boy for we messed up. This is what really happened. A weather balloon, and this is pieces of the weather balloon, right?
Right.
Yeah, which to me is messed up because it's like that's that guy's reputation. Now everybody thinks that since he was involved, he's the crazy one, right?
Right.
Yeah, which that's just crazy to me.
So can you see this right here?
Let me head over to you. Yeah, I'm pulling that up now. Yeah, so this is the guy. This is the original guy. I don't want to give you guys false information, but I'm pretty positive this is one of the first responders to the Roswell crash. And when he showed up, he immediately saw pieces of the debris from the craft that had crashed, and he started collecting it to bring it home. And you know, when you're one of the first responders, they're immediately going to blame you for whatever comes out in the headlines, right? I mean, whatever you report is going into the newspaper.
Right. So this image is after they reported that it was a weather balloon. So this is after the initial report of the material that he found.
Yeah, that's, bro, you can't, like, how do you mistake this for a spacecraft, right? Like, you can't.
Pull that out, that it's going to return back to its shape. It's not happening.
Well, okay, so the other question is, and like I've heard the story before, right, about how he crumpled it up and it immediately bounced back into its original form, right? The question is, do you think maybe, possibly, that somebody in his family still has that piece of material? Because if I stole it and I showed my family members and they're passing this story down from generation to generation, I'm gonna hold on to that. I'm gonna bury it somewhere where I can, tell my kids the location of it one day. Like, this is something that I am gonna take very seriously.
Nah, they probably, maybe, but they probably took it from him.
Man, I tell you what, if they came and got that, and they're putting my picture in the paper, and they're saying, you got to change your story, and then like that picture that you were showing, I believe in other documentaries I've seen, they told him to look at the camera or something like that, and to smile or something like that. What do you remember the story behind that?
I remember the whole story. Actually, they set that up. I do remember they stood all with the weather balloon and that material stuff to match the story.
Yeah, I
So
think.
it was a weather balloon.
Yeah, I think his great grandson or his grandson was saying, you know, that they were basically barking orders at him, telling him, you know, hold it up so the camera can see it, and you know, he knew it was a lie. He knew that it was a cover up, and you could just see, you know, he's looking at somebody, maybe it's a general or somebody high up in the military, barking orders at him, and you could tell he was very uncomfortable, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far, you know, we've covered when it happened, where it happened. Now, you know, they're changing their story. It's a cover up. So there's a guy named Bob Lazar who worked at, it's not Area 51. It is connected to Area 51 in the Nevada desert, and he worked on technology that supposedly was recovered from crashed UFOs, and he was working on these things in a top secret laboratory with top secret, I guess you'd say technology that is borderline magic. He decided after working in S4 lab, right? It wasn't it Area 51 S4?
Right. This is what it is.
Yep. After he had been working there for quite some time, trying to back engineer the technology so that the government, he'd have to figure out what it was, how it worked, stuff like that for the government. Some things went down. We can talk about that a little bit more later. But he ended up leaving the program, leaving S4 in the Nevada desert, and he ended up telling some of his friends about some of the things that he had seen while he was out there in the desert. And Lethal's in the chat going crazy. Yeah, so he ended up telling his family about it, his friends, I'm sorry, and they went out there, and it was everything he said it would. He knew where they were gonna test fly some of the UFOs that they had out there. He knew what days and times, and he took his friends out there, and they saw it. They saw it with their own eyes. They've testified, you know, in multiple conversations with different podcasters about it. Jeremy Corbell is a huge advocate for Bob Lazar, and Jeremy Corbell, to me, initially wasn't very credible, and then after I did some of my own research and digging around, I found him to be very credible. And what about you? Did you find Jeremy Corbell credible?
I didn't know who he was, so I didn't really listen too much to what he was saying at first, but just over time, seeing him in the UFO, you know, scene and everything, over time, he's proven to be credible. It just can't be, you know, I can't deny him. So. Yeah, so when you listen to somebody who you do eventually find credible, and he's backing up this guy's story, you start to question your own sanity, I think, after a while, because he didn't do a lot of interviews, but the interviews that I have seen him do, this guy is 1000% accurate every time he tells the story. His story never changes. Not a single detail is altered in any of his interviews he's ever done. And this guy knew about things 20, 30 years before they came out to the public. For God's sakes, he knew about something that came out on the periodic table 20 to 30 years before it actually came out, bro. Yeah. 151. He talked about element 151 20 years before they even developed it. He talked about that's what they used as the fuel system for these craft that they had. And it was but you know, we had an unstable version of it or something like that.
Yeah. They were trying to get this element that wasn't even on the periodic table at the time. And he's talking about it 20-something years later or so, it comes out. Like, how do you know about an element that wasn't even on the periodic table yet? And this guy is giving you detailed information about how he worked on this stuff. I mean, at some point, you have to wake up, people. You have to wake up and realize, okay, if you can't prove that aliens are real, that's fine. If you can't prove that the videos and pictures that the Pentagon and the Air Force and the DOJ and everybody else is releasing, if you don't want to believe that, you at least have to do your own independent research and realize that this guy really worked at Area 51, S4. He really was on their employee roster. He really went to college for this shit. He really already was, dude, his credentials were crazy as far as was he fit to work in these type of labs. His story never changed. He knew about elements that weren't even on the periodic table. Bro, you can't just make this shit up. So you have to do your own research, and once you do your own research and you start to realize this guy is probably most likely telling the truth, that's when you have to dig deeper. And I'm sorry, bro, but Bob Lazar is so credible to me that after just watching a couple of his interviews, I went all the way down the rabbit hole, bro, and I never came out the other side. So, I don't know about you.
Yeah, man, I've been looking at so much stuff here lately.
Yeah, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. But anyways, this guy, Bob Lazar, I want you guys to see for yourself with your own eyes a little bit more about this guy, because to me, he still till this day is the most credible, most interesting man in the world, as far as UFOs, extraterrestrials, UAPs, whatever you want to call it, are concerned. You want to go ahead and play that, or say you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and play this. Play the Bob Lazar.
I think it says stream paused or something. I can't see the video. All right, here we go. Is there any way you can make it bigger than that?
Which is a few miles south of Balloon Lake. And as Brady says, are flying saucers, antimatter reactors, and other working examples of technology that is seemingly beyond human capabilities.
Right, this came from somewhere else. I mean, as bizarre as that is to believe, but I mean, it's there. I saw it. I know what the current state of the art is in physics, and it can't be done.
Checking out Lazar's credentials proved to be a difficult task. He says he earned degrees in physics and electronics, but the schools we contacted say they've never heard of him. He also said he worked as a physicist at Los Alamos National Lab, where he experimented with one of the world's largest particle beam accelerators, a half-mile-long behemoth capable of generating 700 million volts. Los Alamos officials told us they had no records of the Robert Lazar ever working there. They were either mistaken or were lying. A 1982 phone book from the lab lists Lazar right there among the other scientists and technicians. A 1982 clipping from the Los Alamos newspaper profiled Lazar and his interest in jet cars. It too mentioned his employment at the lab as a physicist.
Guys, sorry about the echoing. I'm gonna do my best to fix that next time.
Okay, that's all about that.
Yeah, but no, I mean that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, that Bob Lazar worked where he said he worked. And he's shown to be actually credible in that situation, because they're going through some kind of lengths to cover up the fact that he actually worked there.
Right. Can you access your camera?
I could a minute ago, but now it's not.
Damn.
And I want to go back to my camera.
Dang it. Yeah, no, dude. 1000%. He to me is the most credible, right up next to David Fravor, and this new David Grasham guy.
I mean, everybody's been saying, you know, if we have UFOs, if he's saying, you know, this is true, then why hasn't anybody said this before? Bob Lazar just said it.
Yeah, I mean, he already said how and why they decided that they were going to try and bury his identity. But again, you know, he's said where things were going to be, what time they were going to be, and then it happened. You know, the elements on the periodic table, he knew how we ended up getting X-ray technology, night vision technology. I mean, he knew about a lot of stuff, dude, before it ever came out. That's stuff that you can't discredit, right? So then if you believe his story, then you believe that he was there. And so, you know, bro.
Despite knowing all that stuff, when I first started hearing about Bob Lazar, and then I heard all these things about them covering up him working there and all this stuff, I still didn't want to believe that all that he was saying is true.
Right.
But he had a little bit more to say. Let's listen to him a little bit more.
Hold on, let me go back.
Let me know when you're ready.
All right.
Working on, but figured it had something to do with advanced propulsion. On his first day, he was told to read a series of briefings and immediately realized how advanced the propulsion was.
The power source is an antimatter reactor. They run gravity amplifiers. There's actually two parts to the drive mechanism. It's a bizarre technology. There's no physical hookup between any of the systems in there. They use gravity as a wave, using wave guides, almost like microwaves.
It took a while, Lazar says, before he actually saw one of the flying discs. However, there were hints everywhere.
Right.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Yeah. So for those who haven't seen any of like his old interviews he's done on different podcasts, one of the most interesting things that he said to me was, well, first of all, this guy is so interesting to me because he put a jet engine in a Honda car, did he not?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why the lab was interested in him, because he did some crazy shit like that.
Yeah, he put a straight jet engine in a Honda. If you guys know anybody who's crazy about cars and they're swapping engines, this guy put a jet engine in a Honda. Imagine pulling up to a red light and this dude's got like a spacecraft engine in his car, bro. Like, come on, man. So anyways, yeah, he did that. And then they put him in the paper because it was just the most ludicrous thing anybody had ever seen. And I think he went to a job interview or something like that. And there's a guy that actually worked at Los Alamos at the building, standing outside reading the paper. And Bob Lazar walks up to him and he says, "That guy you're reading about in the paper, that's me." And they swapped information. And then years later, that guy got a hold of him and they were like, "We need to back engineer this technology. Who would possibly be smart enough or crazy enough to put their hands on this project?" And the guy was like, "I know the guy." And they contacted Bob Lazar, and then he ended up taking the job. But one of the other craziest things to me was he was describing the situation after he had been working in the lab for a while at Area 51, and he said that the guy he was partners with in the lab, his lab partner, I forget what he said his name was, Barry. I think he said his name was Barry.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, he said, Barry said, there's a reason there was a job opening. And Bob Lazar was like, "Well, why was there a job opening?" And he said, well, in not so many words, somebody had died and Bob took his job. And the reason he died was Bob thought that they tried to cut their way into a nuclear reactor. Right?
Okay, so it didn't happen to Barry, but Barry was telling him that.
Yeah, Barry was telling him, "Yeah, my last lab partner died because he tried to cut into," and I don't know if it was our version of a nuclear reactor or if it was something that was alien technology that was similar to a nuclear reactor, which would make more sense, right?
Yeah. It's tough. Well, sheesh.
Yeah, bro, that's just crazy to think about. It's just crazy to think about when you think about some of the stuff that they were working on. Even Bob Lazar said it best. He said, what everything that he was working, he had his hands on, was technically impossible, right? Like it shouldn't have existed, but it was. And if they're working on things similar to nuclear reactors, he said, we have no idea what we're dealing with. Right? Like, to me, that's scary. To me, that's scarier than I need hazard pay because I'm in the desert in Iraq fighting for my country. That's scarier than working on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean. They're giving you things to work on that is essentially a Rubik's Cube, and you have no idea how to solve it. Right?
Right.
And that was in the night. That was in technically 1950s. So imagine what they're working on now.
He said he knew what was possible, and what they were working on was impossible.
Right. Borderline magic.
Borderline magic.
I think, bro, I don't remember what he said, but he said it was like a flying disc or something that looked like a basketball that was deflated, and he said it was like anti-gravity, where when he tried to touch it, it pushed itself away from him. Do you remember him talking about that at all?
I don't remember those specifics. I don't really remember him describing the craft too much. I remember he did on Joe Rogan, but I don't remember too much about. I don't remember the specifics of how he described it.
Well, like when he was describing that to me, my first thought in my head was, imagine if we had that technology today, where it was like anti-gravity, where if it tried to come in contact with anything, it pushed itself away from it. And I was immediately, when he said that, I'm thinking, oh, well, that solves every car crash incident forever in the future. Right. You know, like if your car comes too close to another car, it just pushes it away.
Yeah.
Boom, no car crashes ever again. Well, then why do we need insurance? Right? So I get it. For sure, I get it.
If they're saying it just currently we have people coming out in the military, former military people, saying that the U.S. military has recovered vehicles not from this earth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have Bob Lazar saying that he has worked on vehicles not from this earth, basically. And then you go all the way back to Roswell, we have people saying that something crashed not from this earth, with beings not from this earth. It's a clear trail that goes all the way back to the 40s.
I mean, you're absolutely right, dude. And when you look at where this all started, you have to start to wonder, how much money did they put into the black budget for the disinformation programs, right? Because like when I look at like Project Blue Book, which I think was the first UFO investigative thing. What's that?
Okay, so Project Blue Book wasn't actually the first one. There was two before it, then ultimately became Project Blue Book. But those three programs, they're kind of like the programs that they have today in Congress. But those three programs, do you know where they originated from?
No.
They originated from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
That makes so much sense. Honestly, I never connected those dots.
This is not, some UFO folklore. These programs existed, in fact, in the government. These programs were formed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and were basically headquartered there. Those are facts.
Damn, bro. And like I've watched many documentaries about Project Blue Book. I've watched the TV show. I've done my own independent reading, and I don't know why I never connected those dots, but it makes so much more sense now.
I mean, too many dots are just being too many. When you look at the UFO situation, you look at the UAP, UFO phenomenon, all the situation, the task force, the Project Blue Book, it's just too many dots that connect.
Right.
For everything to be a coincidence and for none of this to be real, something is going on.
Oh, 100%, bro. 100%. I would like to take a caller. What if you could ask somebody one question related to the UFO topics? What would it be, Philly?
Let's see. If I had to ask a question,
but keep in mind, I do believe that this caller is going to be a believer. Most people wouldn't call in on a topic like this if they weren't.
I want to know a lot of things, but right now on my mind, I want to know what the reason is they're keeping it. What do they know? What the reason is they're keeping it secret? There has to be something.
That's a really good question. That is a really good question. All right,
why the secrecy? I mean, for so long. I mean, I understand that people may not be ready for it. But I believe people are smart enough. I mean, people have seen enough. At this point, people have seen enough alien movies. People have seen enough that they're ready for it. So I'm curious as to what they actually know and the reason why they're keeping it from us.
Great question. We're gonna take our first caller. Who's this?
John.
Hey, what's up, John? So co-host Philly, he's got a question for you. You ready for it?
All right. Yeah, I'm ready.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Philly.
What is it?
So Jonathan's on the line. Go ahead and ask him the question.
You want me to ask him the question?
Yeah.
I can't hear Jonathan.
Go ahead and say something, Jonathan.
Hey, what's going on, Philly?
You hear him?
No, I can't hear him.
All right. Well, we got some technical issues. I'll go ahead and ask you for Philly. Philly was wondering if he could ask you one question on the UFO topic. Philly would want to know, why do you think the government is keeping it a secret after all these years and all the information that's come out to the public?
Personally, I think it's us as civilians, we wouldn't be able to comprehend if aliens really did make it here.
So you're saying that us as civilians wouldn't be able to comprehend how they're getting here, as in like we wouldn't be able to comprehend the technology they're using?
Yeah, like we wouldn't be able to just like be like, oh, okay, aliens here. I think it would just turn everybody upside down and everybody would just go crazy.
Okay, so basically keeping the peace, trying to keep control on the situation?
Yeah, I feel like people would just be too scared to understand that aliens are here.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, they loot and riot over the craziest little things nowadays.
You gotta understand.
Ready for it?
Wait, I'm sorry, Philly. What'd you say?
I said he doesn't think people are ready for it.
You don't think people are ready for it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the next question would be, what's next then?
What's next? What do you mean? As far as be a little bit
like, what's next? Say they were here. You did know. What's next? What does that mean?
Like how? Like basically, what's the next move for our government?
Yeah. What's the next move for us?
That's a big question, and I don't even know how to answer that.
I mean, you could look at District 9, right? You could look at the movie District 9. That's one scenario.
Yeah. Well, it's one way I think. If we have alien technology, if the government has alien technology, alien spaceships, and they're back engineering it, then if they were doing it way back then, they know something. They have some kind of technology. They learned something from it, and I feel like the fact that they learned something from it and not shared it with anybody means that it's kind of holding back our country, you know, if not humanity, you know, making progress, who knows where, you know.
Did you get that, Jonathan? Could you hear him?
Yes. Yep.
So he brings up a strong point as well, Philly does. And, you know, I've talked about this extensively to friends, family. You know, what if there was a way to, like I said, make sure that there was never another car accident again, the amount of lives that we would save, right? And then what if we already 20, 30 years ago had the technology to cure cancer, right? I mean, you see what stem cells can do. That's probably the tip of the iceberg as far as genetics and genetically modified medicines and stuff like that, right? But then again, if you take the amount of people who die from cancer every year, the amount of people who die from car accidents every year, all these problems that we solve, if we solve them, is that overpopulation? Right?
So basically, if we tell people there's aliens, we're gonna save a lot of people, but a lot of people ain't gonna be able to handle it, so we're gonna lose a lot of people at the same time.
It should balance itself out. That's funny. Well, all right, Jonathan, while we got you on the line real quick, what's one thing you would ask us? I think Philly and I, we're definitely not professionals, but we're definitely not novices when it comes to this stuff. What's something that you've always wondered? We'll try our best to answer it.
Well, it's kind of like I don't know if something I've always wondered, but what do you think about that David Grunch, the whistleblower?
Oh, Philly, I'll let you take this because I feel like you've been delving super hard into this.
Yeah, I watched the whole interview that he gave on News Nation. It's available if anybody wants to watch it on News Nation. You can watch that whole interview. And one thing that really stuck out to me that gave him a lot of credibility is that, you know, he says who he says he is. He worked where he says he's worked. But one of the biggest things for me was his lawyer. His lawyer is the former Inspector General. And he went through the former whistleblower processes. Like, he went through, you know, he did everything you're supposed to do as a whistleblower. You know what I'm saying? The proper procedures and everything. And he left the government to bring this information out, which means he's no longer, I think he's no longer under protection of the whistleblower. So his lawyer really has no need to, he really doesn't have to represent him anymore, but his lawyer is still sticking with him in this case. So that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely his credibility is rock solid. And I think for me with this guy, it's the same way I feel about the credibility of David Fravor. What?
The former Inspector General is basically the head of Homeland Security.
Right.
The Inspector General is basically, that's the head of Homeland Security. That's the role they play.
Yeah, and this guy was explaining things that almost anybody I've ever listened to with his type of credentials, they could only scratch the surface as far as the information that they were. This guy had more than a rudimentary understanding of how different dimensions work, and the way he was describing some of this technology, or I'm not even sure what you would call it, bro, because I feel, like I said, it's like borderline magic, some of this stuff. You remember, Philly, we were talking about the video I sent you about how there was like a drone type UFO, and then one of our Navy carriers shot a missile at it? and it hit the target, but it was almost as if though it was there, but it wasn't there.
Yeah, so they actually sent in a jet and they shot a sidewinder at this stationary object, and you know they hit it.
Right, and it had no effect.
And when the smoke cleared, it was like the Independence Day movie. I was like, what the hell?
Almost like it had a shield.
Exactly.
Right.
And what I thought was weird was that when me and Philly were talking about it, Philly and I were talking about it, Philly said it was like almost like it was projecting itself from a different dimension or something, right? Like it wasn't on this plane.
It was almost like it was in a bubble. Like and that object was in another dimension, but that bubble was in our dimension.
Right. And I thought it was very coincidental that the day after you said that, I was watching the interview, and that's exactly what David said. He was like, it's from like a different dimension. Like they're not getting here through just space. It's like they're getting here somehow through a porthole from another fucking dimension. And if that's the case, and they have that type of technology, then probably everything we're seeing in the skies, or at least from one race or another, is here and at the same time not here.
It's hard to say what's going on, because what he was saying was, the guy asked him, was like, well, how are they getting here from so far away? He was like, well, we're not sure. We can't say how they're getting here. We can't even say that they're coming here from far away, you know. But he's a physicist. Also, he's trained as a physicist, so he knows what he's talking about. He did explain some dimensional stuff as far as like different planes and how they would, you know, could use technology to bend space-time and travel dimensions. Because I mean, it's a fact that, you know, mathematically, scientists have found other dimensions.
Right. So I don't know if that answers anything for you, John.
Yeah.
But that's our explanation for you. But is there anything else you want to cover before we end this episode, Philly? I mean, personally for me, I think the last thing we should talk about is what we're going to discuss on the next episode. Because, again, guys, I do appreciate everybody who watched, subscribed, liked. Thank you, John, for calling in. But, you know, these are just going to keep getting better. We'll be more prepared on the next one. The topics will keep getting bigger, better. And I think for the next one, what are you thinking? What should we talk about on the next episode? Because if we're going all the way back, then we should probably only go, but you know, so deep into the UFO pool, a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think on a timeline of events that have happened. Maybe we can find some Project Blue Book stuff that happened.
For sure. Let's get into the next week. Let's get into the Project Blue Book stuff.
Do you remember like Project High Jump?
I've heard the name.
Or Paperclip, or was it Project Paperclip, where the Navy ship went out? Was it Antarctica or something like that? And they
German scientists over to work on the atomic bomb and stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yep.
What about Skinwalker Ranch?
Skinwalker Ranch is a great topic, but that's more in the 90s. We're right now, we've covered the 50s, and so next we're gonna be like late 50s into the 60s, right?
Yeah, I say we cover Project Blue Book, and what's the guy's name that was the head of Project Blue Book?
Oh, you're talking about Dr.
I'm gonna have to look it up real quick.
No, hold on, wait, don't tell me first. Don't tell me first. He had like a German last name. Damn it, what the hell was his name, bro?
Oh, look at that right now.
Oh, it's like he has a German last name. Hynek, Dr. Alan Hynek.
Yeah, that's right. That is correct.
I knew I was going to get that. Dr. Alan Hynek of Project Blue Book.
Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk about him, how he came to be, some of the stuff that he investigated, and the importance of Project Blue Book. So you guys definitely hit that subscribe button if you guys want a notification when we upload again. And episode 2 will be about Project Blue Book, Dr. Alan Hynek, and Philly, my bro. It's been a pleasure, my dude, and I really enjoyed doing this with you, man. I look forward to the next episode.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's definitely been a pleasure.
All right, man. Will you stay real? What's that?
It's always fun talking about UFOs.
Man, hey, we're just getting started, bro. We've got so much more content to cover. I'm excited where this is gonna go. And again, thank everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we really appreciate your support. And we're not going anywhere, so buckle up. It's gonna be a bumpy ride.
Thank you, guys.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Later.